So
Exactly.
without further ado, we'll get right into this episode. This is Brianna Barrett, and she
Hello.
is a good friend of mine, an amazing human being, and somebody that I admire because of her journey and just who she is. Your ability to just like persevere, your ability to be consistent and not give up and
Thank
find
you.
yourself where you are today. I think that so many people uh, need to hear it, need to hear your story. So, where are you
Well,
from?
thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Where are you from? Can you talk a little bit about, how you grew up and just
Yeah. So I was born in Montebello. I lived in Alhambra for probably first 10 years of my life or so. And then I spent about 10 years in the Inland Empire. I moved to Ontario when I was 10.
okay.
That was tough going right into middle school, new everything, new place to live, no familiar people at all besides my own family.
Yep.
Um, and then 10 years later, when I was 20, I moved to Westchester when I lived on campus when I was going to college. So, my love
I
of the
lived
arts and
there.
dance started pretty early on. I played an instrument. I played the violin for a while when I was
Really?
younger. Yeah, and learning, of course, is interesting. The all of the sounds that come through when you're a beginner. Um, but uh, but
I
yeah,
know
so
sounds.
yeah, so yeah, I mean, I've always loved music and art and dance, and so I started. I was taking cheer when I was younger. It was like a cheer and dance thing through like the
Yep.
um, community programming, and I was also doing violin, like I said, in elementary school. And I think what really sort of sparked that like love of performing for me was I had auditioned with the rest of my class. We all auditioned for places in the Alhambra High School Orchestra, and mind you, we were like 8, 9 years old. And it was just to like have the opportunity to play with them, to practice with them, and things like that. And so I was really happy to be one of only 3 kids in my class chosen to actually perform with them.
Oh,
And
wow.
so that was really fun. Yeah. And so, that was like, wow, I could actually, do some performing and it's really fun.
Yeah.
And then, of course I was when I was doing the cheer and dance stuff through community programming, I had the opportunity to dance in parades, and of course little performances. And so that was also really fun. So, that's kind of how I got my start. I always had wanted to be a teacher, and I always knew that that was something that was really important to me. Being a teacher, being a mentor, I feel like I discovered that that was what I wanted to do because I didn't have that when I was growing up.
Uh-huh.
So I wanted to be able to kind of, provide that for someone else and hopefully help someone else's journey. So yeah, that's how I got my start. And like I said, high school, I decided I wanted to start performing and pursue this as a career. And so
Yeah.
yeah.
So wait, so you go from uh, the cheerleader team, right, into this dance that you do, right? This dance that you teach, right? What
Yeah.
form of dance is it? I know there's jazz, there's hip hop, there's
Yeah.
classical, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah. So I've studied jazz, ballet, contemporary, modern, hip hop. Um, I haven't done a whole lot of tap, uh, but it's something I have been introduced to.
okay,
Um, and I have been introduced to other dance forms, cultural dance forms, especially in college. It was important to them to expose the students to cultural dance. So I've trained in a lot of different styles, and I currently teach jazz, ballet,
yeah,
contemporary right now. Those are like the 3 main things that I teach.
okay. Now I noticed that the school that you're teaching in, right? There's
Mhm.
an ARCO. Is that
It's called Dancing with RKDC. It
okay?
is the education program for the Regina Klinjowski Dance Company, which is a professional dance company.
Oh wow, wow! And
Yeah,
you've been over there for how many years now?
it's been a little over 7 now.
Okay, I
Yeah.
remember we had some convers. You were looking for space for, the owner of the school and all
Yeah.
that. And I don't
Yeah.
know how
Yeah.
that worked out. I had a friend that was his thing, but still, um,
Yes.
you
Yes.
fast forward past that to where you are now. I know you were doing this like part time or trying to find the time to do it, and then it went from me watching you to, okay, I'm solid here where I am, and now we need some students. Or you were like I see you do your advertising for students to come and get some of Brie, right?
Yeah.
Get some of
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
um, I see, again, like I said, I follow you and I see, trust me, I've seen your journey. I've seen you like at your starting point, so to speak. I didn't know that uh, you were able to do this full time, which to me, are you doing this full time now, or how's that working?
Yeah, I would say it's full time now, pretty much. I mean, so there's a lot of dance teachers, and even dancers who perform professionally. I mean, teaching is how you pay your bills most of the time.
Yes.
Um, it really depends. Yeah, it really depends on kind of what your path is. There are many pathways you can take with a dance education, and there's really no one path. It's definitely one of those things where it's what you make it, and you do have to sort of create opportunity for yourself.
Yes.
And that's really, yeah, that's really where you'll thrive if you can be a person who speaks up for yourself, creates opportunity, and also just educates yourself on what you're really getting into, and be confident, network. All of those things are so important for many different fields, but especially in the arts where, it's not like a 9 to 5 job. You're not guaranteed your, 8 hours a day and PTO and all of that. It's very different.
Yep.
I do this full time now, but I am an arts administrator and a dance teacher. So aside from teaching dance, I also direct the education program for RKDC. So I'm able to make this my full time job because I have a couple of different ways that I make my money.
Yep.
And I also can teach like yoga. I have other certifications in movement styles and modalities where I can teach other things and make money in other places as well.
That's awesome.
So that's one of the things I always suggest to everyone, especially some of my high school students who are starting to think about going to college. I have a few of them who are thinking about majoring in dance in college and trying to make
Yes.
this like their pathway. And
Yep.
I told them there's so many different paths for you to take, and sometimes they don't all work out, and
Yep.
you have to kind of just you have to think 3 steps ahead sometimes. So yeah.
Listen, I wanna jump in and say, here's the thing about confidence, right? Having confidence to just go through whatever it is to present yourself in a way in which, uh, whoever you're presenting yourself to knows if you're coming for something, you're not accepting no for an answer, right? You'll
Mm-hmm.
figure out a way to, uh, you'll figure out a way to make it happen. I often say that it was told to me that your confidence will determine the number of zeros in your bank account, right? And I took that to
No,
heart.
exactly.
Confidence, is such a thing. I've raised three daughters, and two are, adults now. One is University of Santa Barbara. One is working for a chiropractor and going to school to be a dermatologist. And then I got my 13-year-old be 14 this month. And I used to say, like, just raising these kids, the hardest thing to do was to find a way to, I mean, you plant the seed of confidence,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a seed that it seems like it's under the dirt for a long time. You're trying to nurture
Mm-hmm.
it. They're having these experiences, and you want them to just stand up and be confident. Just go
Yeah.
do it. Don't overthink things. And for me, it's like I would ask any parent, like, or any teacher, like, what is the magic? What magic? What said? What needs to be done to have a kid look at themselves in the mirror? I often say a teacher's job, I tell my kids this, okay? A teacher's job is to get a student to see themselves, right? And
Mm-hmm.
when they finally see themselves, the teacher can be satisfied with, I did my job. Because once they see themselves, then they can blossom. And I see that,
Mm-hmm.
with some pushing, with some tugging of my own kids to get them to do certain things that they had no belief in the beginning that they could do. And once they got that ball rolling, like your students starting at a certain point and saying, I
Mm-hmm.
can't do this, I can't do this, and you're saying, you can do this, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they finally take the first step, and some of them take right off. Others,
Mm-hmm.
all of our timing is different. So we all
Yeah.
get to a point of wherever it is that we're going a little later than others, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a lesson that I had to learn as a parent that everybody doesn't start in my timing, and for you,
Mm-hmm.
as you teach your students, how have you dealt with that? Just getting a
Yeah.
girl who doesn't know anything to a point to where you got them twirling and carrying, other girls across the stage and all of this, and just
Yeah.
on the stage and to perform.
Yeah. You
Explain
know,
that.
it's tiny victories. Um, Tiny victories are, I think, what really builds confidence. Learning one skill and then that being your victory for the day. We were just talking about this yesterday in class, but you can do this today, and then you can do one turn today, and then in 2 weeks, a month, whatever, you'll do two. And then maybe 6 months from then you do three. It's really just tiny victories, I think, that really build confidence in the students and the teachers being able to I think it's really important for teachers to be able to communicate in different ways. Speaking just particularly from my point of view, teaching like movement,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure a lot of other school teachers will agree with this too, but there's different learners and they learn different ways. And I think it's a good thing when teachers can sort of teach the same idea in different ways. So
Yeah.
like some people are visual learners and some people are auditory learners,
Yep. Yep.
kinesthetic learners. Like there's so many different types of learners, and I think really getting to know your students and what works for them.
Yep.
If you're explaining something and it doesn't make sense, and you show it to them and it doesn't make sense, finding different ways to do that so that it does make sense to them. And
Yeah.
then beyond that, that's when they'll really learn, and then that's when they'll start earning those tiny little victories.
Yeah.
And then that's when their confidence builds, and they have the confidence to know that they can do things
Yep.
if they just work really hard. Consistency
Yep.
is one of the biggest things that I preach to my kids all the time: hard work and
That's
consistency.
right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
It doesn't only apply to kids, right? It applies to
Mm-hmm.
adults as well. I mean,
Absolutely.
I mean, adults well into their, mature years, still trying to find
Yeah.
that thing that says or that speaks to whomever is
Mm-hmm.
in the room that, hey, I'm here, right? And this
Yeah.
is me, and this is what you get, right? And so that's part of, again, that's why I wanted this platform to also teach that. Now, I'm in the real estate business, as you know, and getting in front of people at different levels, of this game where, from your, the first, your first time buyers to people who've sold multiple properties at multiple $1 million points. And just being
Mm-hmm.
able to present myself in those kind of rooms where at the end of the day, what I've learned is you just have to be you. You just have
Yeah.
to be 100% the sum total of all the decisions that you have ever made in your life, which makes you
Mm-hmm.
you, so
Yeah, but there's also a process to learning who you are too, right? Like I could say be you to a teenager, and sometimes
they
they're
don't
like,
get
well,
it.
I don't really know what that is yet,
Yeah,
like,
right.
so yeah.
They're
So
learning who
it's
that is. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
So you ask questions, and you come at it from, uh, inquisition. I want to ask a student a question like, well, how do you feel about that? Well, what does that do for you? Like, asking them different questions about whatever it is that we're talking about. And I think that helps them start to kind of reflect a little bit more, learn how to reflect so that they can come to like a realization like, oh, this is what I like to do. This is what I don't like to do. This is
That
hard for
aha
me. This
moment.
is, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I
Yeah.
have those. It's called Rux Place moments. So
Yeah.
my daughter and
Yeah.
I have started, and
Yeah.
that aha moment, even for you. Now, I ask you, when did you uh, become like? When did you get your aha moment? Now, after you decided this is what I'm going to do, when did it become real for you? Like, this is it. This is where I'm going. This is where I want to be. This is where my passion lies, and this is my contribution to uh, this group of people. This whole
Yeah.
body of creativity and art.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it happened in a couple of ways and in a couple of different ways, I should say. So I always knew that I really liked to teach. That kind of came from when I was in high school. I was a TA, so I was able to teach some of the beginning classes. Like, we would help the teacher out. Maybe I would like make a little dance for the beginning dancers or something like that. And I thought that was really fun. And that was sort of my like aha moment for like this. I feel like I'm onto something. This is something that I really enjoy. And that led to me making my decision to become a teacher and to learn dance and earn dance education. When I graduated from college, my goal, my plan was to get a teaching credential. I had graduated from LMU, and I had applied and was accepted to the Dominguez Hills, Cal State Dominguez Hills, their credentialing program. And I
Yep.
went through everything. I went through all of the steps, and I got to almost the very end. I was like, okay, I'm going to accept it. But I had a meeting with a counselor, and there was a very crucial, important piece of information that I was not aware of. Um, and that was my
Always.
fault for not doing the research. But that's why I say, right, you have
Yep.
to research. um, Back then, California did not have a dance credential. They had them in like other states, but not California. It was just a PE credential. So that was one thing. I had
Wait,
would have had
like a physical education credential?
yeah, yeah. If you wanted to be like a dance director at a high school and like, lead the dance team and manage that whole dance department, you would have to in California, you would have to get a physical education credential.
Oh wow.
So yeah, because California didn't have a dance credential. So that means that I could have ended up, teaching volleyball for a class period or like, been a PE teacher for a class period. It wasn't ideal, but I was willing to do it.
Right.
So that I could teach dance, and hopefully I would have a day full of just like beginning dance and the dance teams and not have to teach PE.
Right.
So that was like the first thing that was not so appealing, but I would do it. But
Okay.
the thing that really was a deal breaker for me was when I got to the very last step. I was about to go to Dominguez Hills, and I ended up discovering that you have to do student teaching and it is unpaid. And that I did not realize in advance. And like I
Yeah.
said, you got to do your research because I didn't know
Yeah.
that was going to be a part of it. I assumed you would shadow someone, I assumed you would get training, but I did not really think that they would make you intern for no pay and do student teaching for like a full school year.
Yeah.
My counselor at the time had told me you'll be in school from 7 a.m. to like 3 p.m., like a normal school day. And you have to complete like X amount of hours. And I was like, well, when am I supposed to work? Because then they
Yes.
said, when am I supposed to make money? Because then they said in the evenings, you'll have classes. And I was
Right.
like, okay, so like if I'm not making money doing student teaching and I'm not making money in the afternoons, when am I making money? So that I can pay my bills, so I can pay rent, so I can live here.
Yep.
And I just, kind of got like, a shrug answer, like, well, I don't know. Like,
Yeah, that's on
I
you.
guess, you'll have to figure it out. And I didn't have parents that were going to financially support me. My mom
Yep.
did not live in LA. I moved here. She lived like an hour away, and she wasn't in a position to financially support me through that at all.
Right.
So, I ended up saying, well, I guess I'm going to have to rethink this. And I didn't end up attending. So I, rescinded my acceptance basically. And I was like, well, what do I do now? So, that's when I started really kind of applying for every teaching job that I could get my hands on.
Paid job.
Yeah. Well, any
It's
job,
money.
multiple jobs, multiple jobs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was working for Starbucks at the time too. So I worked there through college, and I was working at one point close to full time pretty much, and also going to school. So I still had that job, but it wasn't by any means a dream job at all.
Right.
Um, and yeah, and so I applied to many teaching jobs and tried to get as much teaching experience as I could. And I said, well, I guess I'm going to go teach in the private sector then, because I can't obviously do what I originally had intended to do.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it worked out. I did get quite a few jobs in many different settings, which I think, was really, really good for me at the time. I live by I don't even remember where I heard it, but I heard it from someone at some point, and they said, if you really want to be successful in an organization or in a business, you need to make yourself indispensable. And that's sort of the motto that I live by in
Yeah.
every job that I have, is making myself indispensable. And
Indispensable.
and
Wow.
so yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Listen, this again, this is where um, I identify with you, right? And this is what I know, that just that mindset can be applied to almost anything that you set your mind to, you have a goal for, and it's something that you want to achieve in life. It's a funny thing that I was listening to Will Smith speak the other day, and he was in a podcast situation, and he was saying that, you know, we're already living the dream. We just don't
Hmm.
realize it, right?
Hmm.
And you think the dream is, at some far distance away from you,
Hmm.
but it's actually not. You're actually walking in your dream. And then someone said in the podcasting space that, you get a podcast started, which is something I recommend to anybody and everybody. Okay. And you're thinking, like my kid, I had my kid start a podcast, and she would say to me, nobody's listening to me. Nobody's paying attention to me. I'm just doing this for myself. And she's kind of sensitive in that moment, and she started to cry. And I told her, after I had heard, because I listened to, like, this is food for me, just this
Yeah,
exchange, this
yeah,
helps me in my business endeavors as well. But someone said, when you're first starting off, you don't really want an audience because you're
yeah,
growing, you're
yeah,
building, you're becoming like the
yeah,
Michelle Obama, the becoming, right? So you're growing in the dream, and it has to start somewhere. And if you don't get started and build yourself up until where you are today, Bree, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
uh, and to be this amazing person that can now take all of your experiences and offer them with coaching and guidance and love, and teach somebody to get on their path to maybe mirror what you do at some point, right? I don't want a big audience for my podcast because I might F it up. Right? And now I got this big audience, and they're waiting, and they have this expectation of me, and I can't deliver because I haven't paid my dues. Right?
Yeah.
And so all that you have gone through, and everything that I do, all that, I relate to what you're saying, all that you have gone through, you had to go through these steps, working at Starbucks, figuring out a class, going home and being a fiance, or, in a family situation. I see Lola over there now. So you guys got a group going on, right? So
Yes.
just being able to be present in your home life, present in your work life, and your passion,
Hmm.
trying to add some money to it so you can eat, so you can
Yes.
have a roof over your head and not give up on your dream. I've
Hmm.
seen you do that.
Yeah.
And this is why I said, again, I wanted to have you here because it means a lot to me. Your journey is just amazing. And to have you not give up, or have those moments where you're just saying, like, what am I doing? You're questioning yourself. Like, why am I doing this really?
And I
Because,
think you'll do that forever, honestly. I think
but you know what? It's true. And it
anyone will do,
can't just be
yeah.
about the
That doesn't
money.
just go away. It doesn't just go away. I think you always worry about, am I doing a good job? I think if you're not worried about if you're doing a good job, then I think you've been doing the job too long. I think you have to care.
Oh, that's
So
sweet. That's sweet.
yeah, if you're
That's
not worried about it anymore, I don't think you're doing a good job anymore. And I don't think you should be in the job. I mean,
Right, you're
Yeah.
jaded, so to speak. Trust me, I
But
run
that's
into
what I
people,
say all the time. Yeah, when
right?
I see people and they're not in their best, it's something, whatever that might be,
Yep,
customer service or other,
yep,
there's always somewhere some boss or some person who's been doing that job too long. And you can tell they're jaded. And I always say, like, well, they're probably jaded, and
right.
they've been doing this too long. Maybe they need to pivot
Listen,
or give
I'll say
themselves a
this.
break.
I can tell you this, like now that I'm in this podcast space and I have this real estate thing going, see, real estate for me, it's a family thing. Bree, I've been doing this thing for since I met my wife. We've been together for about 27 years. I got out of college. I went to school for public administration, political science. I wanted to be a lawyer. That was my passion. That was the way I was going. When I was a little kid, there were family members that were becoming lawyers, and I
Mhm.
steal their law books, and I just study and study and study. And I thought that that would be where I ended up. My professors in school used to say, "Man, you're too serious. You need to give it a break. You need to be more human. And I was saying, no, man, I have one shot. I'm the one. I'm
Well,
the one
some
that's
people
getting
aren't
the degree,
fortunate.
right?
Yeah, some people aren't fortunate to be, you know, I don't know what they say, relaxed, or
Right, exactly.
some people don't have that privilege
They
of
can't
being
turn right, exactly.
relaxed. Yeah.
Same thing I say to my kids. It's a whole nother
Yeah.
conversation, but me and you could go for days on this stuff.
Yeah.
So this is what I wanted to do. And then my wife said, "Why don't you try real estate? You've been in sales. I sold everything, from BMWs to clothing and my own business and a whole bunch of other stuff,
Yeah.
mortgage and then real estate. And for me, because real estate has been a part of my life, my kids know it like the back of their hand. It's just like, Dad and Mom, can you stop talking about the stuff? We're trying to have dinner. You know, um, they know it. They get involved in it. They're at open houses. They're in front of realtors and real estate offices. And all this time that I've been doing this, I'm like, it's a language that, like dance to you, could become a language that when you're introducing this to someone new, they don't quite get you. But you could learn that language and hear that language so much to the point where you're just like jaded. You're just like, man, I just need, isn't there something more to life? Right? So I got to that point. Like, there has to be something more to life. Yes, real estate is a hell of a business, pays a lot of money if you do it right, helps a lot of people.
Hmm.
It gives people opportunities that they've never had, to become homeowners. And then what you can do with a piece of property to whatever, add to or fund, finance, whatever else your dreams are. So you don't have
Right.
to go through these headaches like your kids. They won't have to go through the same headaches that you go through. But
Hmm.
again, that's a whole nother thing. And I've just gotten to the point where I'm like, not that I'm looking for the out, because again, it's my language, it's what I do. I
Of
can't get
course.
away from it, it's a part of my life. But I think doing this gives a platform for people like you who identify with me. I identify with you. You tell your story, and then someone who's just starting off on whatever it is, they can see that,
Hmm.
listen, shit don't happen overnight, excuse my language, and it's not easy, and you will have to find a way to do what you need to do to make your dreams come true, right?
Yes,
Now,
absolutely.
I have to ask this question of you. Now that you've been doing this for all this time, and
Hmm.
uh, you're in the company of, again, the owner of the business where you get to live out your dreams and live out your passions. Do you see yourself at some point uh, starting your own school?
Mm, I mean, I've talked about it, I've thought about it. At this point, it's really hard to run a dance business. And that's not to say that, like, I'm not up for the challenge, but sort of along the lines what you were saying before, there is more to life, and I don't wish to be um
Tied
working
down?
24/7.
Yeah.
Well, I don't wish to be working 24/7. I mean, owning your own dance business, there are a lot of things that you have to deal with if you're the owner. Legal things, you
Yeah.
know, staff things. There's so many contracts. There's a lot of things you have to be able to balance and manage. And I like what I do now.
Okay.
That's not to say I will never do anything different in the future. And I don't ever say never. You know, like if the opportunity presents itself and I'm in a place where I feel like I could do something like that, then
Yeah.
sure. But I'm enjoying where I'm at right now,
Okay.
and I'm not attached to any particular future, because I've learned that, like, if I plan something, things are never going to always quite go as planned.
That's right.
And so I just kind of take it year by year and see where I'm going. You know, like I said before, California didn't used to have a dance credential. Now they do.
Oh,
That's recent within the last couple of years.
yeah.
And it's a little bit different. It would be just studying dance and just studying how to teach dance in, like, high schools. So that was my original dream years ago. I
Yeah.
wanted to do something like that, work for a school district. Who knows? Maybe I'll do that in the future when I'm older. I don't know. Now, I do
Right.
feel like I make a difference where I'm at now. Um, I have built such wonderful relationships with my students, and with students that I've gotten to work with, other dancers I've gotten to work with in, the Torrance Unified School District. And so, you know, that fills my cup. And so
That's
that was a really long answer, but
no,
at this time,
it
I don't know.
trust me,
I
no,
don't know, maybe.
it's valuable, and it is thank you for being able to share. It didn't matter how long it is.
Yeah,
All makes perfect sense, and it all can be relatable and applied to somebody else's situation. So listen, I am so blessed to have you come on and give me your time. And I
of
really,
course.
really appreciate you. Tell me, where can people find you? Where, if they're looking for uh, dance instruction, if you're trying to put their kids in. Now, wait, first, what's your age group for kids?
Oh, we teach 3 to 17.
3, 2.
Three years old to 17 years old.
Okay, cool. I can imagine working with a 3-year-old. Like,
Yeah, it's fun.
wow, like you start of that at that age. That's insane and incredible. Again, that question, I'll pose that to you. Where can people find you so they can reach out and or I know I can get
Yeah,
your
sure.
information, but if they are just looking at this podcast,
Yeah.
so hopefully you can tell them.
Yeah, you can find me. Well, Instagram's probably the easiest way to find me. So my username is my first name, Brianna, with an X in between, and then my last name, Barron. And that's the easiest way to find me. And yeah, message me, DM me if you have if a young person is considering a similar career path. I'm always open to mentor. Um, I really, honestly, this really applies to any career path, but find a couple of mentors who are doing what you want to do and ask as many questions as you can.
Yeah,
And that's always really, really important, because there's a lot of things that you're not going to learn.
yeah.
Just taking dance classes and, even getting a college education or doing like a commercial dance program, there's a lot of things that they don't teach you. And
Uh,
so it's really important for you to have a mentor. I consider myself a mentor to all of the students that I have. I have students who are asking me questions about college. We have kids who will eventually turn into alumni who have been asking me about teaching for us when after they graduate high school. So I always consider myself a mentor. I think any adult in a position who, in some sort of a position of power should offer that as an option for students. Because I mean, they really can't gain opportunities if, if they're not given the chance. And if it
yes.
wasn't for other adults in positions of power to give me leadership opportunities and things, I would not have gained that experience or that knowledge. So I feel like it's everyone's duty to kind of be a mentor in a way.
Ah,
So
that's so awesome and so well put. And I haven't heard it that way. That's
yeah,
beautiful that you do that. And so you continue to give, not just through movement and self-expression, you also give that knowledge that people can
Yes,
to get to that next step. Jessica,
it's important.
again, I have to say to you, thank you so much. All
Of
right?
course.
You
Thank you.